Alex, I realized this morning that I've reached a new stage of shop brain. I spent 10 minutes looking for my pencil while it was tucked behind my ear, and then I found my actual coffee mug in the scrap bin.
Haha, please tell me you didn't drink the scrap bin coffee.
I considered it. It had a nice walnut infusion, but it reminded me Monday mornings in the shop are a transition. We're moving from the dreaming phase of the weekend into the doing phase of the week. And today, the doing is looking pretty heavy on the metal side.
It's February 2nd, 2026, and apparently, everyone is feeling the urge to bend some steel. Welcome to the TigerDen Daily, everyone.
It's true. The data just dropped from the fabricator, and 2026 is officially becoming the year of the press brake. Over 70% of shops are looking to buy one. Here's the thing nobody tells you about press brakes, Alex. They look like giant, boring staplers, but they are the secret heart of literally everything you touch.
Giant, boring staplers. That's going to get us some angry emails from the metal workers. But wait, hold on. Why the sudden surge? Are we just obsessed with 90-degree angles now?
It's infrastructure, man. We're building again. But it's not the old school manual crank and pray machines. We're talking CNC integrated systems. Ask me how I know that precision matters.
Oh boy, is this about the custom grill guards you tried to make in 2018?
Let's just say that if a bend is off by even half a degree over a 4-foot span, your symmetrical guard looks like it's had a stroke. Modern CNC brakes take the guesswork out. It calculates the spring back of the metal in real time. For a shop owner, that's the difference between a profitable afternoon and a pile of very expensive scrap metal.
So, if you're a maker listening to this, and you've been sticking to wood because metal is scary, 2026 might be the year to look at GMAW, gas metal arc welding. 66% of shops are upgrading their welding tech too.
It's the gateway drug of metal fabrication. If you can use a glue gun, you can learn to MIG weld. Roughly. Don't quote me on the glue gun part when you're staring at an arc, but the ergonomics on the new torches are incredible. They're lighter, the duty cycles are longer. It's a good time to be a spark maker.
Okay, but let's talk about the people behind the tools. Because you can have the fanciest press brake in the world, but if nobody knows how to fix the pipes in the building, we're all in trouble.
You're leading me right into the plumbing and HVAC talk, aren't you?
I am, because the PHCC Educational Foundation is putting their money where their mouth is. $18,000 in scholarships for apprentices. That's 75 people getting a massive leg up.
This is huge. I've said it 1,000 times. The starving artist maker vibe is a myth if you have a trade under your belt. I have a buddy who started as a plumbing apprentice. He used those skills to fund his entire woodworking studio.
And the barrier to entry is dropping. There's a new 9-week pre-apprentice bridge program, 9 weeks to get credentials that leads straight to a union apprenticeship.
9 weeks. I've had projects sit in the corner of my shop longer than that because I couldn't decide on a finish.
To be fair, you've had a lathe project sitting there since the Obama administration.
Haha. Low blow, Alex. Accurate, but low. But for real, if you're feeling stuck in a dead-end job, $180 K in scholarship money is a loud signal that the world needs you. Go get that master plumber status. It's the ultimate job security.
Speaking of job security, let's pivot to the maker moguls. A lot of our listeners are looking at their Etsy shops right now and wondering why they're working 80 hours a week and only making hobby money.
Here's the thing. Nobody tells you. You can't scale a business on a single hero product alone. You'll burn out. You need a product range.
Okay, explain the core satellite model. Because when you first told me that, I thought you were talking about space travel.
It's simpler than that. Your core is your flagship. Let's say you make high-end end grain cutting boards. That's your signature. But the satellites are what save your margins. You take the offcuts from those boards and make custom beeswax conditioner. You make small coasters. You make magnetic knife blocks.
So it's the McDonald's approach? You came for the burger, but they make all their money on the fries and the soda?
Exactly. Bundling is king. If I'm buying a $200 bowl, I'll happily spend another $15 on a tin of the exact finish you used to keep it looking nice.
And the tiered pricing thing? I've seen some makers do a basic and a limited edition. Does that actually work, or does it just confuse people?
It works because it anchors the value. If you offer a signature table for $2,000 and a limited edition with rare burl inlay for $4,500, suddenly that $2,000 table looks like a bargain. And for the person who wants the absolute best, the $4,500 option exists. If you only have one price, You're leaving money on the table from both the budget conscious and the big spenders.
It's about being a businessman who happens to make things, rather than a maker who's accidentally in business.
Spoken like someone who hasn't had to do their own taxes yet this year.
All right, let's get our hands dirty. Project of the week, the gazebo concrete pad.
The gazebo glow up. People think a slab is just a flat piece of rock. It's not. It's a foundation. And if you're doing it yourself, there are 3 ways to make sure your gazebo doesn't end up in your neighbor's yard during a storm.
Step 1. Deepen the perimeters. Why?
It's called a turn down edge. You want the outer edge of that slab to be thicker, maybe 8 to 12 inches deep, while the center stays 4 inches. It acts like an anchor. It stops the wind from getting underneath and lifting the structure, and it prevents the edges from cracking under the weight of the posts.
And the rebar. I saw a guy on YouTube just throw some chicken wire in there and call it a day.
Don't be that guy. Use a 12-inch rebar grid. It's like the skeleton of the slab. Concrete is great at being squeezed, but it's terrible at being pulled. The rebar handles the pulling.
Wait, hold on. You also mentioned sloping on a gazebo. Won't my chair slide off?
We're talking 1/8 of an inch per foot. You won't feel it, but the water will. If you pour it perfectly level, water pools under the wooden posts. Water meets wood, wood meets rot, and in 5 years, your gazebo has the structural integrity of a wet cracker. Pour it with a slight pitch away from the center.
Deep edges, rebar grid, 1/8 inch slope. Got it. So basically, don't be lazy or the weather will punish you.
The shop is a cruel teacher, Alex. It gives the test first and the lesson afterward.
That's actually a pretty good note to end on. Whether you're looking at a new press break, applying for a plumbing scholarship, or finally launching that satellite product in your shop, the doing is where the magic happens.
Just remember, every master craftsman you admire is just a beginner who didn't quit after they ruined their first 5 projects. Stay gritty out there, guys.
And check the links in the show notes for the PHCC scholarship details and our DIY guide for that gazebo pad.
See you tomorrow. I'm going to go find where I put my actual coffee. I think I left it on the table saw.
Don't turn it on.